After bankruptcy, the archenemy came upon hearing the news. A black card was thrown in my face, asking me to be his dog. He humiliated me in every way in front of others, and behind others he was even worse than a beast. I am an alpha, but he treated me as an omega and played with me at will. One day, I opened the door to my basement and was surprised to see pictures of me all over the room. I ran away. When I opened my eyes again, I was chained and naked on the bed of my mortal enemy. 1. My family went bankrupt and my father ran away with the money, leaving my mother and me to deal with countless creditors every day. In order to pay off my debts, I had no choice but to borrow money. So when I found out that this game tonight was set up by my rival Nolan, I still went there with a thick face. There's no way, I really need money. I can't take my mom to live in the basement. So no matter how he humiliates me tonight, I have to endure it. But I really didn't expect him to humiliate me like this. 2. In the dim private room, Nolan held the omega that he had snatched from me a month ago and looked at me teasingly with half-closed eyes. There was a traffic jam on the road and I was late. Being late means drinking a penalty. This is the rule in this circle. I didn't say anything more. Well, I'll drink 3 cups as punishment. Hey! Nolan suddenly raised his hand to hold the rim of the cup, raised his eyes and said with a smile, "It's so boring to just drink. Why don't we try something else?" I looked at his naughty face, showed a row of small white teeth and smiled. "Okay, as long as it can make you happy." Nolan's evil peach blossom eyes were half raised, and he said slowly, "I won't embarrass you. Don't you like the wine fed by the little omegas here the most? So, tonight you can learn from these little omegas and feed me a glass of wine." When everyone in the private room heard this, they looked at each other and didn't dare to say a word. Everyone knows that these two don't get along, and once they meet, there will be a bloody fight. The so-called feeding of wine means that one person holds a cup the size of a liquor cup and feeds the wine into the guest's mouth. The wine must not spill, otherwise the guest will be punished. In the final analysis, it's just a kind of evil taste in the world of romance. I looked at Nolan's playful expression and forced a smile on my face and said, "Okay." I leaned over and took the glass between my lips, then took a few steps forward and knelt on one knee between Nolan's legs. Nolan leaned lazily on the sofa, his rosy lips curled into a smile, his eyes staring straight at the wine glass between my lips. I leaned closer and slowly brought the glass to his lips, so close that I could feel his breath. But Nolan put his lips on the wine glass, his peach blossom eyes narrowed, and he refused to drink. Our noses rubbed against each other from time to time, trying to make things difficult for me. I got annoyed and grabbed his tie. A hot hand suddenly grabbed my waist, and I shivered from the heat of his palm. "Don't shake it," Nolan challenged. Hearing this, I turned away with a gloomy face, but Nolan suddenly came up to me, opened his mouth and bit the rim of the cup, holding my head and pushing it down, and the wine slid into his throat. In a trance, Nolan actually stuck out his tongue and gently licked my lips. I suddenly froze. It must be fake. It must be fake. His lips loosened. The wine glass slipped from between his teeth, and the remaining half glass of wine spilled all over Nolan. "TSK, how should I punish you?" Nolan licked his lips and looked at me. "My mind is in a mess." 3. He pushed away the omega beside him and waved at me. "I'll trouble you to stay with me tonight." The others completely understood that Nolan was just finding ways to abuse me. I just sat down in a daze, and Nolan's slender and powerful hands skillfully put them around my waist. After a while, he suddenly leaned over to my ear and whispered, "Your waist is quite thin." "Fine. What do you mean I have a thin waist? Are you really teasing me as if I were an omega?" Halfway through, I went to the bathroom. I looked up and saw Nolan standing behind me like a ghost in the mirror of the sink. Nolan and I have been at odds with each other since we were young. He would try to steal the cars I liked, and he would also try to steal the people I liked. Every time I change one, he grabs it. It's simply against me. Nolan stood there, half-lidded eyes, a smile on his lips. "Not only do you have a thin waist, but you also have a nice butt." I turned around, no longer as arrogant as before. "Nolan, Just tell me what I want you to do to let me go. Nolan approached and cornered me around the sink. He pulled out a black card and lifted my chin frivolously. A pair of peach blossom eyes is very bad. Be my dog. 5. I looked at the black card in his hand and my heart was moved. When I think of my mother who is worried all day long, the creditors who come to collect debts every day, and the rent, dignity is worthless. Good. 6. After Nolan put the black card into my pocket, he suddenly grabbed my hand and squeezed a pump of hand sanitizer. It felt like I was being held in Nolan's arms, which was an awkward position for an alpha. I was frozen in place, not daring to move, staring blankly. What are you doing? Nolan rested his chin on my shoulder and chuckled. What's wrong with me washing my dog's paws? I should have been angry, but the money was in my pocket, so all I felt was shame. Nolan grabbed my hand and began to rub it, even between my fingers. The 4 hands were entangled in a slippery manner, with an indescribable ambiguity. I feel like all the hair on my body is about to explode. Nolan is absolutely toxic. 7. Nolan took me home that night. This is my first time visiting his house. How should I put it? It's shockingly clean. He arranged for me to take a shower in the bathroom on the first floor. After taking a shower, I looked at a pair of pajamas and a brown leather collar with a small bell on it on the shelf, and my whole body was about to break. With my hair wet, I threw the collar in front of Nolan and asked, "What do you mean? Why don't you wear it?" Nolan took the collar and was about to put it on me. I grabbed his wrist, my knuckles turning white. He narrowed his eyes and smiled. "You must wear it every time you come to see me from now on." What? I widened my eyes and looked at him in disbelief. Nolan looked at me and smiled. "Of course, you can refuse." He clenched his fists again and again. "Forget it. Dignity is worthless." Finally, I let go of my hands, turned my face away, and let him put it on me. I stiffened my neck, licked my fangs, and looked at him. "I guess you've had a lot of fun. No rules. What did you call me?" Nolan gently fiddled with the bell. Hearing this, my face turned red. "If you promise to be my dog, you should act like a dog." I clenched my fists and told myself to endure it. I lowered my eyes and whispered, "Master." So shameful. This guy Nolan is really a pervert. No wonder he took away my Omega. With Nolan's card, I rented a high-end apartment for my mother. It had complete security facilities, and even the deliverymen were not allowed in except the owner of the house, which was just right to prevent creditors from coming to collect debts. My mother has looked much more haggard in the past few months, and her face, which has always been well-maintained, now has a few more wrinkles. She held my hand, not knowing whether she was comforting me or herself. "Baby, you've worked hard. Just wait for your dad to come back. He will definitely come back with money to solve all this." My mother was the only one who thought my father would come back. She didn't know that my dad's number had been unreachable a month ago. "Let's eat first, and then you can have a good sleep." My mother has been harassed by debt collectors for the past few months and is so scared that she can't sleep at night. When we got to the kitchen, my mother and I looked at each other. We didn't even know how to turn on the gas. 9. My mom and I were about to order takeout when the doorbell rang. When he opened the door, Nolan was standing outside carrying bags of food. I looked at him and was confused. "What are you doing here?" "Oh, I see. You are here to embarrass me." I bit my lip and begged. "My mother is here now. I'll go to your place tonight. You can humiliate me however you want." Hearing this, Nolan's eyes flickered slightly. "I'm here to see Auntie." He changed the subject and said, "But it's not impossible for you to come to my place at night." "I don't want to do that even if I die." Not only is he wearing a bell and dangling it in front of him, he is not even allowed to put on clothes. Nolan walked in directly with his things and went straight towards my mom. "Hello, Auntie. I'm Derek's friend." Hello. My mother looked at me, waiting for me to introduce her. Before I could say anything, Nolan spoke first. "Just call me Nolan. I heard from Derek that you moved, so I came to visit you." "Auntie, you haven't had lunch yet?" 10. Nolan grabbed me and took me into the kitchen. I leaned over to him and whispered, What on earth are you doing here? You can't be here to warm my house. Nolan glanced at me and asked, if I don't come, are you going to order takeout for Auntie? I felt guilty and said, we just moved and don't have time to hire a nanny. It was the first time I discovered that Nolan not only knew how to cook, but was also a good cook. I couldn't help it and ate 2 bowls of rice. After finishing his meal, Nolan squinted his peach blossom eyes and looked at me again. I don't know why, but I felt a chill down my spine. I don't know when a strong wind started blowing outside, and soon there were lightning, thunder, and heavy rain. Nolan couldn't leave tonight. I only rented a small 2-bedroom apartment, so I had to sleep in the same bed with him that night. Although both he and I are alphas, I have seen Nolan's perversion, so I dare not sleep too deeply. Before I knew it, I was in Nolan's arms. As soon as I opened my eyes, I could feel the abnormal heat on my back. I kicked the alpha who wanted to wrap me up and kill me with the heat. Nolan, why are you so hot? Nolan tightened his grip around my waist, his nose rubbing against the gland on the back of my neck, his breath sweeping over it again and again. He murmured in a low voice, maybe it's the susceptible period. What? I grabbed his arm and gritted my teeth. So you knew you might be susceptible recently? Why did you come to my house? He answered irrelevantly and rubbed my neck. Derek, you smell so good. The soft touch rubbed against my glands intermittently. Don't. My whole body shook suddenly, and even the sound of my voice changed. There is a sense of reluctance. Soon the gland was completely grasped. 11. Soft and wet. Is Nolan trying to suck my glands in? I lay on the bed trembling, with a tingling heat spreading inch by inch along my spine. His tense fingertips stretched desperately towards the bedside table. There are the suppressants I prepared. Nolan, hold on a little longer. He pulled my outstretched hand back and pressed it firmly on the bed. I gasped, furious. Nolan, open your dog eyes and see clearly. I am not an omega. I heard a chuckle behind me. You can still laugh. I was so angry that I turned over and kicked him, then ran off the bed barefoot with my face flushed. As soon as I put my hand on the door handle and opened the door, my waist was grabbed and Nolan pressed on me from behind with a bang. I was pressed against the door panel. Nolan came up from behind and said, let me smell it for a while. His voice was so deep and tense that it made my scalp tingle. Does Nolan have any weird quirks? I'm an alpha. Why is he sniffing so hard? How could he not know that I'm an alpha? He was clearly deliberately trying to humiliate me, using such a despicable method to humiliate me. I endured it for the sake of money. At worst, I could just think of it as being bitten by a dog. I don't know when my mother heard the noise and stood outside the door and knocked. What's wrong? Hearing this, Nolan bit the tip of my ear and chuckled. In an instant, my ears felt hot. I tensed my neck, pressed against the door and whispered, Mom, it's okay. A bug just flew in. Go back to sleep. Suddenly, there was a brief sharp pain at the back of my neck. Well, my eyes widened in shock. Nolan, he bit my glands, he actually marked me. In order to disgust me, he actually went to this extent. No wonder I am no match for him. 12. The marking process was long, with pheromones belonging to another alpha running rampant through my body. I started to physically shake, repulse, and become irritable. Nolan turned me around like a puppet. Nolan came over to kiss me, but was stunned the moment he raised his eyes. Only then did I come back to my senses from the unfamiliar confusion. You! He looked a little helpless. Pa! I opened his hand. Tears rolled down my chin. I didn't even know when I started crying. After I realized what was happening, I raised my sleeves to wipe away my tears and pounced on that bastard Nolan. I'm going to fight you. When my mom pushed the door open, I was on top of Nolan, biting his neck and refusing to let go. 13. That night Nolan and I were taken away in an ambulance. Nolan took an injection of a powerful inhibitor and nothing happened. My situation was not good. I bared my teeth when I saw Nolan and was quarantined. 14. After I was discharged from the hospital, I used Nolan's black card to spend a lot of money. While brushing, I cursed him for getting bitten by a dog when he went out, for not having chopsticks when ordering takeout, and for getting his teeth stuck when drinking cold water. That night, as soon as Nolan called me, I obediently followed him to the charity dinner. As soon as he entered, the uncles and aunts from the past surrounded him. I have to admit that Nolan has some business acumen. They looked surprised to see me and Nolan together. Nolan didn't explain much. We were inseparable and behaved very intimately throughout the whole process. I know Nolan is taking care of me. Let them know that I am hanging out with him now, and for his sake, he won't make things too difficult for me because of the debt my family owes. Well, Nolan is pretty good, although he wanted me to be his dog. 15. A few glasses of wine? Can you get drunk? After getting in the car, I looked at Nolan, who was drunk and threw himself into my arms, and I couldn't help but sneer at him smugly. I rolled down the car window and let in the slightly cool night breeze. When I lowered my eyes, I saw Nolan's incredibly handsome face and his high-nose bridge. Seeing an alpha who is more handsome than me really makes me uncomfortable. I pushed away this jealous head. Then Nolan suddenly grabbed my hand and looked at me solemnly with his drunken eyes. It's like a deep pool that wants to suck people in. I licked my lips nervously. You! I saw his eyelashes tremble slightly, and the next moment, unexpectedly, he grabbed the back of my head and kissed me directly. I was totally shocked. I only heard him urging in a low, hoarse voice, "Open your mouth." 16. I bumped head first into it. Nolan lay on my lap with his head tilted, completely passed out. Seeing this, I spoke in a fierce tone and looked smug. "Oh, you dare to act crazy with me when you're drunk." 17. I dragged the unconscious Nolan back to the villa, feeling particularly happy. I took out the small bell from the drawer, looked at Nolan on the bed, and laughed sinisterly a few times. Hee hee, Nolan, I didn't expect that you would have this day. I quickly put a collar on my enemy, took out my cell phone and took a lot of photos, venting my anger. It must be said that Nolan knows how to have fun. I have to say, it really feels different when wearing this little bell. Just as the corners of my mouth stretched to my ears, the bell rang. Nolan sat up suddenly in bed, and I dropped my phone in shock. At this moment, I felt extremely guilty, fearing that this pervert in front of me would take mad revenge on me. Don't think I don't know that he has been buying a lot of things that are not presentable recently, just to humiliate me. I was so nervous that I swallowed my saliva and forced a smile. That misunderstanding. Ha! It's all misunderstanding. Nolan just looked at me and blinked vaguely, then said, "Take a shower." Me? Ha! Teen. Good news, Nolan is still drunk. The bad news is that Nolan has already stripped naked and is squatting in the bathtub waiting for me to bathe him. I looked at my archenemy's good looks, feeling half envious and half jealous. "Why do you train your breasts to be so big?" Nolan saw that I was staring at him. "Do you like it?" Shit. Did he pretend to be drunk on purpose just to show off in front of me? I held the shower head against his face. Bah! Shameless thing. 19. Nolan shook his head and dodged, the bell around his neck jingling. I had a lot of fun. TSK, this little bell is really nice. I took the shower and continued. Come on, call me master and I'll let you go." Nolan suddenly stopped moving. He was stunned for a moment, then stood up and walked towards me. Damn, that's too much. When I realized what was happening, I dropped the shower head and ran away. A wet hand grabbed my wrist and pulled me, sending me sprawling into the bathtub. Water splashed everywhere. Nolan held my waist and said with a half-smile, "Have you had enough fun?" His cold hands pinched my neck and made circles. "Since you like this collar so much, will you wear it every day?" What? Ever since I agreed to be his dog, Nolan has been keen on organizing parties. He no longer touches those little omegas and takes me with him wherever he goes. He almost lets me sit on his lap in front of everyone. If those princes in the circle saw me wearing a dog collar and following Nolan, wouldn't they laugh at me to death? Will I continue to be a mixed bag in the future? Absolutely not. My brain was working fast. I closed my eyes and threw my face away. I lowered my voice, leaned close to Nolan's ear, and said shyly, "Master, I was wrong. The hand around his neck suddenly froze. My face felt hot, but fortunately I escaped. As an alpha, he can bend and stretch. It's not shameful. No one knows anyway. Before I could rejoice, the world was spinning around and I was pressed into the bathtub by Nolan, who bit my gland again. The shivering numbness made my whole body tremble. The shame and anxiety of being marked by the alpha surged up again. My eyes were red and I frantically scratched Nolan's neck and arms, leaving red marks. "Don't think you can humiliate me like this, Hugo. I'm thick-skinned." Nolan looked at me with a satisfied and doting look on his face. "It's good to have a bad brain." 20. In order to humiliate me, Nolan now makes me his bodyguard during the day and his dog at night. Tortures me 24 hours a day. I tied his tie with gritted teeth. If it weren't for the black card, he would have been strangled to death by me. "Are you sure you want to go to the company like this?" I looked at the scratches on his neck and gave him a kind reminder. Instead of appreciating the favor, he took me around his company to let everyone know that the former Mr. Sue was now just a small bodyguard who obeyed his orders. I looked at the red marks on his neck and regretted not scratching him to death last night. But why do the employees below always look at us with ambiguous expressions? That's weird. Could it be that they noticed that the red mark on Nolan's neck was caused by me scratching it? After fishing for a long time, I went to the toilet to flush and just pulled up the zipper of my pants. Suddenly, a male alpha rushed over and flattered me. "Hello, Mrs. Hua." I was so scared that I almost got stuck. "What, Mrs. Hua?" He pointed meaningfully at my gland. "Don't worry. We all know how to assert our sovereignty. From now on, I will be your eyes in the company. If any slut gets close to Nolan, I will report to you immediately. Can you please say a few good words for me? I want a promotion and a pay raise." I looked in the mirror and saw a bright bite mark on my gland. Shit, I almost forgot that the bite marks on the glands will last for a few days after being marked. Nolan must have done this on purpose. He wouldn't really want to fuck me. The thought of this shocked me. But hasn't he always liked the little Omega? It's over. It seems that Nolan's mess with Alpha has messed with me. 21. Walking on thin ice is what I am talking about. Now, whenever I make eye contact with Nolan, I get chills all over my butt. The scene of Nolan marking me kept appearing in my mind. That burning restlessness made me feel uncomfortable all over. "Why is your face so red?" Nolan looked at me. Is there? I turned my face away and touched my nose. Nolan narrowed his peach blossom eyes, as if he wanted to see through me. Fortunately, his sister Marissa rushed in furiously and interrupted him. "Why did you stop my card?" I slipped away when the opportunity arose. I think I need to find an Omega to put under Nolan's nose to discourage him from having any idea of messing with me. I'm screening the right little O in my mind. Marissa suddenly rushed towards me, with a rebellious look on her face. "Are you my new sister-in-law?" "Humph. Let me tell you, my brother has a crush on someone since childhood." "Really?" My eyes lit up with excitement and my heart finally settled down. She looked at me in surprise. "Aren't you jealous? Shouldn't you go to my brother and make a scene?" "How come?" "So you know which young master he has a crush on." "I'll go and invite him over right now." I looked at her eagerly. This way my butt is saved. "Humph." Marissa stomped her feet, rolled her eyes at me, and ran away. 22. I felt extremely at ease letting Nolan treat me as an Omega for his own amusement. If he wanted to nibble on me, he could do so. It was just bullying and he had no intention of spanking me. It wasn't until a month later that I accidentally opened the door to the basement and saw the walls covered with my photos. He was taking pictures of me before I was differentiated. I was shocked beyond words. So, Nolan's secret crush is actually me. My heart, which had been hanging in the air, finally settled down. 23. That night, I couldn't wait to appear in front of Nolan with little O on my arm to put his mind at rest. How is it possible for there to be two alphas? In the private room, the lights were dim, and Nolan looked at me obscurely. I was restless and kept drinking with my head down. Everyone was having a great time. Nolan smiled and waved at me. "Come sit over here." After standing up, I pretended to touch the little Omega's head and said gently, "Baby, wait for me for a while." As soon as I reached Nolan, he pulled me away. He leaned close to my ear, half smiled, and said in a low voice, "Do you like this?" I said, with a wandering look in my eyes. "Very good." His voice was eerily dark. "But don't forget, you are my dog now." He pinched my chin hard. I looked him in the eyes and said, "I like Omegas." Nolan was stunned for a moment, then smiled and said, "You found that room? I was wondering how you suddenly got the idea." 24. Nolan suddenly got angry and roughly grabbed my collar and dragged me out. When everyone saw this, they were so frightened that they didn't even dare to make a sound. He threw me into the car. None of us spoke along the way. I thought Nolan understood what I meant. When I came out of the shower, I saw Nolan sitting at the end of the bed with a gloomy look on his face. He only came over every night when he wanted to tag me. Anyway, he's been biting me for a month now, and apart from the natural repulsion between alpha pheromones, I don't really mind it that much. It's just a mark anyway. So I obediently knelt at his feet and rested my head on his legs to make it easier for him to mark me. Nolan sneered, pulled me up, pressed me on the bed from behind, and bit down on my gland. This time it was more brutal than any other time before. I couldn't help but tremble. After a long pause, Nolan licked my swollen gland and said, "Do you know why I didn't lock that room?" My brain was confused by the unfamiliar pheromones and I couldn't understand what he was saying. "I'm tired of snatching your Omega. How about trying something different today?" 25. The smell of the Omega inducer filled the room and my body began to flush abnormally. Nolan wasn't much better. He was even worse because the smell of the Omega inducer was coming from him. Omega inducers are generally used to regulate AO life in Omegas with pheromone deficiency. It can mobilize alpha to the maximum extent and allow alpha to directly enter the susceptible period. This madman, with two alphas acting like this, isn't he afraid of something happening? I hurriedly got out of bed, only to find that Nolan had already locked the bedroom door. I walked back, looking at Nolan with wet eyes, but I couldn't help wanting to get closer to him. Smells so good. Nolan smells so good. The susceptible period makes me particularly in need of the comfort of pheromones. I leaned against Nolan and sniffed him, calling him baby all the time. Nolan's eyes turned red. He smiled and lifted my chin. "Is that how you call those Omegas?" I can't understand what he is saying. I just wanted the smell of him. 26. The susceptible period ends 7 days later. I deeply understand the consequences of two susceptible alphas staying in the same room. I was lucky that the bed didn't collapse. I lay in bed and woke up from my drunken stupor. Nolan had finished his shower and came over to kiss me on the lips. "Morning, baby." This is the happiest period of vulnerability I've ever experienced. I licked my lips with mixed emotions. Damn, I actually hooked up with my archenemy. 27. That night, I went to the bar to get drunk. I really can't understand why Nolan likes me. From the time he competed with me for the position of class monitor in kindergarten, to when he beat me by a long way in grades, to when he snatched my Omega, my relationship with him has always been like fire and water. Why does he have a crush on me? I was drinking to drown my sorrows when suddenly an Omega came over. "Handsome guy, are you heartbroken?" "No, handsome guy I was forced to love." Omega put his hand on my thigh. He looked up at me, his eyelashes trembling. "Brother, who is so blind to dump you?" I took one look at Omega and thought, not as good looking as Nolan. Omega pouted. "I feel bad for you, brother." I sighed in my heart. Nolan's lips are thin, and they feel very good when he bites them. Shock. "Derek, wake up. He's an alpha." Omega saw that I ignored him, but he was not discouraged. He poured a glass of wine. I slapped the cup and said, "Did you pay? Do you want a drink for free?" Omega may have never seen an alpha as stingy as me, and the corners of his mouth twitched. Not as good-looking as Nolan. None of the Omegas here are as good-looking as Nolan. I was feeling melancholy when Nolan called me. Just then, another Omega came over to chat with me. "Are you alone, handsome guy?" Nolan's voice immediately turned gloomy. "Are you looking for an Omega outside?" I, as soon as I opened my mouth, the phone was hung up. Half an hour later, Nolan rushed in and took me back. Luckily, I was drunk as soon as I got home. Otherwise, I don't know what kind of madness he would have gone through. I can't bear another susceptible period. In the middle of the night, I woke up because I had to pee. When I opened my eyes, I saw him holding my feet obsessively and kissing the small mole on the back of my foot devoutly. My brain just shut down. It's over. Nolan really loves me. Until one day I ran into Nolan customizing a set of chains and I was scared away. I started avoiding Nolan. 28. Nolan is fine. But he is an alpha. How can I like an alpha? All my boyfriends since childhood have been omegas. I kicked the stones on the roadside, feeling extremely melancholy. I thought it would be great if Nolan was an omega. I was just realizing the horror of this thought when I suddenly heard a cry for help from the alley ahead. I ran over, but saw only a mobile phone lying in the corner. The cry for help came from the cell phone. When I realized something was wrong, a shadow appeared beside me, and before I could turn my head, I felt a dull pain in the back of my head. I was knocked unconscious by a stick. 29. When I opened my eyes, I was in an abandoned building. Hands and feet were trapped. I actually knew the haggard-looking middle-aged man in front of me. Logan, the partner who was badly cheated by my dad. When the man saw that I was awake, his eyes were red, and he put the knife in his hand on my neck and shouted at the top of his lungs, "Call your father and ask him to transfer 50 million to my account, or I will kill you. I'm bankrupt, and your father has taken away all my assets. He's driving me to death. Don't blame me, uncle. I have no choice. I have a family to support, and my wife is still in the hospital waiting for money for surgery. Since I can't live well, then no one else can live well either." I looked at the knife at my neck and didn't dare tell him that I couldn't get through to my dad on the phone. "Logan, calm down. I will find a way to get you the money. Let's sit down and talk it over. Don't try any tricks." He eagerly took out my phone, unlocked it with his face, flipped to the contact and called directly. As expected, the call couldn't be connected at all. The man immediately became excited when he saw this. "Tell me, how do you contact your father normally? How did he transfer the money to you?" I looked at the knife dangling in front of me, closed my eyes and soothed him. "Logan, don't be impulsive. Kidnapping and extortion are illegal. If you don't think about yourself, you should think about your aunt. So, let me go first, and I will find a way to get you the money for the surgery. Don't play dumb. If your dad didn't give you money, how could you afford to rent a high-end apartment for your mom? That's money I borrowed from my friend. You and your father teamed up to deceive me, didn't you?" The man didn't believe it at all and forced me to call my dad over and over again. Seeing that he was getting more and more out of control, I decided to take a gamble. My father always contacts me through a middleman. To ensure safety, he no longer uses this number. Real. Logan, how could I joke about my life? I am the only son my father has. It really works. He untied the rope on my hands, threw the phone in front of me, and put the dagger to my neck. "You'd better not play any tricks, or we will all die together." I nodded fearfully and dialed Nolan's number. Without waiting for him to speak, I said quickly, "Tell my dad that if he doesn't want me to die, tell him to prepare 50 million and transfer it to the account I will send to him later. Don't call the police, or he will have my dead body waiting for him." The man snatched the phone from my hand and said, "I can only give you half an hour at most. If the money doesn't arrive in half an hour, his son's head will be in danger." Now I can only pray silently that Nolan can find my location as soon as possible. Half an hour later, the man went out to answer a phone call, probably to confirm that the money had arrived. Just as I breathed a sigh of relief, I saw the man angrily kick the door open and grab my collar. "Why is there only 10 million? Where is the remaining 40 million? I saw the dagger approaching my neck, and the next moment, Nolan called me. What does he mean? Does he still want his son's life? I don't know how they communicated, but in the end, the man tied my hands again and said fiercely, "If your father doesn't transfer the 40 million by 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, I will send you to hell." He closed the door and went out. I was tied in a corner and couldn't move. The night was growing darker and darker. I didn't dare to sleep, but in the middle of the night I still dozed off for a while. I heard a rustling sound, and as soon as I opened my eyes, my mouth was covered. A familiar voice came from my ear. "Shh, don't worry. The police are outside." I saw that he was alone, and my heart was beating fast. "It's so dangerous. Why did you come up here alone?" Soon there was chaos outside. "Quick!" Nolan took my hand and led me out through the window. At this time, the man kicked the door open and saw that we were trying to run away. He rushed towards us with a knife in his hand with extreme viciousness. Nolan put his arm around my waist and blocked me. My heart tightened. "Be careful!" 30. Nolan kicked the dagger out of the man's hand. He pulled me hard, and I lost my balance and twisted my foot. I heard a crack and fell flat on my face. My ankle swelled up instantly. 31. When my mother found out I was in the hospital, she rushed over overnight. "Where are you hurt? Let me see." I wolfed down my midnight snack, lifted my ankle and said, "It's okay. I just twisted my ankle." "It's okay, Auntie. I'll take care of him. It's so late, you can go back and rest first." My mother nodded in agreement without even thinking. "Okay. Is this really my biological mother?" My mother patted my shoulder and said earnestly, "Whether you like Alpha or Omega, I support you. Don't worry. Just love freely." No, Mom. When did you know that I like Alpha? 32. After returning from the abandoned building, word spread that Nolan had spent a fortune on me. Now, he could no longer hide his feelings for me. 33. That night, Nolan took me home. He took care of me all the time until my foot was completely healed. TSK, he really shouldn't love her too much. The next day after I recovered, I opened my eyes and found myself naked and chained to the bed. Damn, what's going on? Nolan saw that I woke up and came over and kissed my face. Gentle and paranoid. "This time, I won't let you escape from me." My brain was working fast, and I laid myself out. "Who said I was leaving? You are handsome and rich. I can't hold you tight enough. Not to mention that you are my biggest creditor now." 34. Nolan was monitoring me closely 24 hours a day. He took me to various occasions and was always very considerate, calling me Madam whenever he saw me. "Nolan is really the envy of others. Your fiancé is so handsome. When do you two plan to hold the wedding?" My fiancé almost believed it after hearing it for so long. During this time, I went to the bathroom and turned around and ran into an idiot. In the past, he often compared himself with me and always wanted to be better than me in everything. "I don't know what's wrong. I heard you and Nolan are together? It's none of your business." I turned aside to leave, but he stopped me and shook the ring in his hand. "Here, look. This is the ring my baby chose for me. It's a couple's ring. You don't even have a ring. TSK, you and Nolan are fake." 35. Nolan was in a good mood tonight and drank quite a bit of wine, staring at me from time to time. It was even worse when he got in the car. It was as if his eyes were glued to me, as if he wanted to stick close to me. My mortal enemy who always steals my Omega, why has he become like this? When I looked up, I saw Nolan looking at me with a barely perceptible smile in his eyes. I was stunned. Shit, why didn't I realize Nolan's smile was so alluring before? "Kiss," Nolan suddenly said. He looked at me without blinking. I suspected that Nolan was drunk again. Otherwise, why would he look at me with such a pitiful look? Isn't it forced love? Why do you suddenly change track and go for pure love? I cleared my throat, blushed, and avoided his gaze in panic. "You are drunk." There was no response for a long time. When I looked over, Nolan was hanging his head in disappointment. TSK, what a lousy thing. I cupped his face and gave him a quick peck. As an alpha, he can bend and stretch himself. It's just a kiss. Nolan's eyes lit up instantly, and he suddenly caught up with her, deepening the kiss. Oh my God. I was kissed unconscious. Back at the villa, he took my hand and walked into the basement. He leaned over to my ear and said excitedly, "Derek, I have liked you since I was 17. As he said this, He grabbed my hand and placed it on the gland at the back of his neck. My heart was pounding so hard that I almost ran away. 36. I ran to find my mother in the middle of the night. Mom, I think I'm in love with Alpha. I'm so upset. I need to find someone to talk to. My mom looked at me in surprise and asked, "Huh? Aren't you engaged to Nolan?" 37. I tossed and turned until midnight, then ran back and fell asleep. As a result, when I opened my eyes the next day, I was locked in bed again. Nolan sat at the head of the bed and looked at me dimly. "Didn't you run away last night? Why are you back again? Are you reluctant to spend the money? Have you checked the surveillance? How else would he know I went out last night?" Nolan's eyes darkened a little bit. I said, "I won't let you leave me. It seems that if I don't teach you a lesson, you won't learn your lesson." "Ha! I'd say you misunderstood. I didn't want to run. I just wanted to tell my mom that I was about to start a relationship with an alpha. But let me look at the chains on my body. TSK, I haven't played this game either. I'm a little moved. How about installing it temporarily?" 7 days later, I regretted it. I cried and tried to climb out of bed. Nolan pulled me back fiercely. He pressed me down on the bed of roses. I turned over and sat on him. The manic pheromones made me lie on him and bite him all over. My lips were bloodied, and I said fiercely, "What do you mean I don't want to? Why don't you confess?" Nolan was stunned, and then his eyes were filled with joy. "What did you say?" I say, "Do you want to try dating? Although I have never dated an alpha, you are lucky. Also, you can just play with these scraps of metal occasionally as a hobby, but don't handcuff me every day. I'm only doing this for the sake of your black card." The next moment, my mouth was kissed. "Derek, I like you. Whether what you say is true or not, I will stay with you." I ran out of bed, opened the drawer, took out the ring I bought late that night and put it on Nolan, and then we took a photo holding hands and posted it on WeChat Moments in one go. If I don't show my affection to my husband, I'll be rumored to be abandoned by a wealthy family in the circle. Doesn't this alpha have any dignity?